So this lesson is about naming acids, and acids are essentially any sort of compound that starts with a hydrogen in the beginning. So if you see an H as the first letter, most likely it's an acid. The one exception is water, which is H2O. That is not an acid. So when you are working with nomenclature and you have identified that it is an acid because it started with the H, the next question you need to ask is, does it contain oxygen? And if your answer is no, you are going to be following this route where you identify or you start the name with the hydro and take the root name and then end it with ic. So let's do an example. For example, I have here one that is HF. All right, so I see there's no oxygen in there. And because of that, I would say no. I have to start it with hydro, all right? And then I look here and it looks like it's fluorine. And instead of saying fluorine, hydrofluorine, I end it with ic, hydrofluoric acid. Not spelled like this. And if you get the ending part a little bit mixed up, that's fine, as long as I see that it ends with ic. So my apologies, that should be hydrofluoric, and then you say acid, okay? If you have a chemical that does contain oxygen, let's try one that is this one right here, HNO2. All right, so you know it's starting with an H, it's an acid. NO2, you see the oxygen right here, so you know, okay, I need to take this path. And then what you need to do is you need to look at that polyatomic anion you have over here and say, okay, what is the name of that? And that's where you look at your polyatomic chart. And when you look at the name of this here, you identify that it's called nitrite. Okay, so that ends with an ITE ending. And because it ends with an ITE ending, we give it an OUS ending as an acid. But we do not write hydro in front. So this would be nitrous acid. All right? Let's say, for example, we have HNO3. So one more oxygen. So yes, it does contain oxygen. But for this ending, when you look at your polyatomic chart, you see that it is called nitrate. It has an ATE ending. And for that reason, you end it with ic. So it's nitric acid. And the way I remember it is that I ate something icky. And if all else fails, most likely it's going to have an ic ending just because you see an ic here, an ic there, so it's more common to have that. So that's how you name them. Now, how do you write the actual chemical formula? So for the chemical formula, pretty straightforward as well. You're looking for clues. Let's do one that's called sulfurous acid. All right. So here's some clues. I have to first look, do I have hydro in the front? Okay, so the answer is no, I don't have hydro in the front. So that means I have an acid that contains oxygen. So I now need to look at the polyatomic chart. So I look at the polyatomic chart and I notice that it has an OUS ending. Because it has an OUS ending, going back to this diagram over here, OUS endings mean it ends with ite. So I realize that it has to end with ite, and so I am going to look at my polyatomic chart and I notice that, oh, SO3, that's a sulfite. It must be a sulfite, which is this chemical formula because of that OUS. Okay, next important thing for that chemical formula is that I know it has a -2 charge. And in order for it to be an acid, remember, I need to have hydrogen in the front. So I place my hydrogen in the front, my SO3. But because this has a -2 charge and hydrogen has a +1 charge, they have to equal out to 0. So for that reason, I'm going to place a 2 here because hydrogen has a +1 charge. SO4 has a -2 charge. I need to have 2 hydrogens. That means 2 plus 1 charges to get me to have that 0 number. So that's how I would write that acid. Don't forget that those subscripts have nothing to do with charge. They are talking about how many of those elements you have.
Your attention, please. Just a reminder.
All right, so continuing on, let's do another one where I have hydrosulfuric acid. For this example, I'm recognizing I have hydro in front, so that means that it's not doesn't contain oxygen. Most likely I'm going to find this just purely by the periodic table. I have the root word of sulfur in there, so I know I have H and I have an S for the sulfur. I do not have oxygen because of that hydro, but I also have to think, okay, sulfur has a -2 charge. And because it has a -2 charge, I need to make sure that my charges equal 0. Again, I place a 2 by the hydrogen because that has a +1 charge. So that's about the most difficult those will get. And that ends our lesson.